Every time I'm in it, you sit there and you start smiling to yourself. Isn't this incredible? Isn't this amazing? And you do have a right bottom lip wobbling moment over the whole thing, because it is absolutely knockout. My name's John McGurk, and today we're going to be talking about the F40. I've owned the car for 10 years. I've driven it about 20,000 miles over 10 years. It's part of the family. It's the whole thing. It's an emotional car to have, because you love it. The F40 is so special for the same reasons as it would be for anyone and everyone. The whole poster pin-up car thing, yeah, absolutely. There was video footage of it, I remember, in Italy. Flames coming out the back, big rear wings. I mean, the car was just obscene, and it's always been such an interesting car to look at. There's something going on with each panel. There's something interesting, vents, air intakes, badges, whatever. So anyway, so fast forward a bit, and I worked at a Ferrari dealer in Loughborough in the 90s. And of course, at the time, the cars were coming in for servicing and sales and what have you. And I was always in absolute awe of these things. And I remember there's a guy that worked there in the service department called Dash, and he was taking a car out for a road test, and I'd been leaping up and down saying, take me out, as you do. So he gave me a nudge one day and said, come on, let's go. So I strapped myself into the passenger seat of this car. It's like being strapped to a jet engine, and the takeoff is so aggressive that you just can't help but burst out laughing, or whatever it is that you do. I remember never forgetting putting this foot down and the boost and the turbos, and the whole thing just took off. That was just something else, and I was sold on it from that point on, really. We went through a period of buying and selling F40s, F50s, 288 GTO, all the special stuff when it was within reach of mortal man. And at the end of this particular year, every time we sold an F40, you needed another £50,000 to buy the next one. And you kept looking at it thinking, are these things going to keep going up? And they just kept going up and up and up. And it just gets to a point where I couldn't keep up. And it was the one that was left over at the end of the year. And I literally, I rang the bank manager and said, I need some help, remortgaged the house. I just did everything and anything I could to get the funds together, turned up with it at home on the driveway, and said to my wife, look what I've gone and done, sort of thing, and that was it. And of course, it got to the end of 2011. I'm looking at thinking, it has gone up a little bit, and 2012, and okay, yeah, fine. And by that time, we'd got married and all the rest of it, and the car was part of the family, and you just think, no, I love it. And if you sell it, what am I going to buy then? This is a 1991 car. It started life as a cat car, non-adjustable suspension, and as quite often with a lot of these cars, the early history is a little bit unclear. We've got the details of who owned the car, who supplied it, there's some service history and stuff. Buying F40s particularly, you need to become a bit of a detective with each car. So you've got the paperwork over here, and that's great, but actually you've got to look at the car, because so many of them have had not a great life. Some of them have had accident damage that nobody wants you to know about. Some people disconnected speedo cables on gearboxes, need to drive around Europe and then bring them home again. Lots of that sort of stuff went on. So you've got to look at them and make your own mind up as to whether you think it's a good, authentic car or not. terms of the way that it drives, it's aggressive, it's dangerous, it's a bit like, I like riding bikes, so I love my bikes, and it's a bit like you go out on a bike, or you're doing a track day or whatever you're doing, and you get home at the end of the day, you take your crash helmet off and you pat yourself on your back and you think, got away with that. Got away with that. And it's the same sensation with the F40, because you have to be razor sharp with it the whole time. When you accelerate with it, you respect it, and you be very gentle with that throttle, because it will bite you, and you just don't want to put yourself. And the whole sensation of that, the thrill, the fear, is the kick, I suppose, in a weird way. And even now, when you drive it now, a couple of weeks ago, dry roads, third gear, put your foot down, in comes the boost. I was nowhere near flat. I was like half throttle, and it just starts to go like this, and it just reminds you that it does that. It's very point and shoot. You are having to watch out for potholes, cat's eyes, anything that will change the direction of the car. You've got to have both hands on the steering wheel all the time. You're just, again, it's like being on a motorbike in terms of the focus of making sure that you're 100% paying attention to what's going on. There's no finesse to it, it's just raw. It belongs on a track, on a smooth surface, rather than on an open road. It's difficult to drive on the open road, because of course you're on the wrong side of the car, but all of that just adds to the whole, isn't this cool kind of thing about it. It gives you the goose pimples and the sweaty palms and all that. When you're driving it, you just can't help it, really. The Golf R would murder it up to 4,000 RPM. I think most things would have a go at it up to 4. The Range Rover would probably have a go at it. Yeah, there's loads of lag. So, you can drive around that. But if I was in fourth gear at 2,000 RPM and I wanted to put my foot down because I wanted to overtake something, you're going to read a book before the thing cuts in. So you've got to just drive the car, and that's the excitement of it. So when you're going to overtake something, be ready to overtake it. So you're in the right gear and you're on boost and it's going to go, and and all that sort of stuff. So there's no flat with a paddle and off you go. It's you've got to really drive it. And that's just what it's all about, Memorable trips with the car. The gathering at Silverstone was something else, because there was so many cars all lined up, all going around Silverstone together. And I've got a photograph actually, which I took of the car in the pit lane before we went out, where I could make out the number plate of the back of my car, surrounded by all these other cars, and it's just such a brilliant photograph. But I remember actually there was one guy who he'd just bought his car, and I remember him going round the car, picking faults with it. Now, the guy didn't drive the car there, it was trailered there, but he was going around saying, this isn't clean, that's not. And I looked at him and I thought, oh, come on, And I thought, he's probably going to drive the car around the circuit, put it back in the trailer, and never ever get in it again. But the Silverstone thing was mega. There were so many cars there. It was a really amazing bit of history to be a part of. I've been out in the car with a pal of mine who's got an XJ220. That was really cool, the two cars going together. I've been out before with a friend who had an F40 as well, and we were driving along together. So having two together, come on, But other than that, when you talk about memorable trips with the car, it's always memorable, right? So it's every time you go out in it. A lot of it is to do with other people's reactions when they see the car, and that's nice, because you get the people that really, really appreciate it. It creates a load of attention. I've had people overtaking me on the motorway, and the passengers leaning out the window trying to get a photograph of the car, that sort of thing. You get the guys in the Seat Cupras who are wheel spinning next to you, and they want to, and all that sort of stuff, right? You just let it all go. But it's always a memorable thing. So I haven't done any upgrades to it, with the exception of the exhaust, because the standard silencer that it had was this great big thing. It was huge, and the amount of heat that it created in the back of the car was too much. And it's made of carbon. They do go up in flames, as we see every now and again. And of course, the one thing that scares you about it is the fact that the car's going to catch fire. So when I first had it, and I had this exhaust at the back of it, the fact that it was too quiet was annoying, but you kind of forgave the fact that it was too quiet for the flames that it threw out the back of the car, which at night time going through tunnels was spectacular. But But the heat that was created at the back of the car, we got to the point where you couldn't touch the back of the car. It was too hot, so the whole frying egg on the back of the car. And I'm thinking, this is crazy, because it's just going to go up in flames. So I've got a friend in the motorsport world, and he custom made an exhaust for me. Did a cracking job of it. So now it sounds brilliant. The flames aren't quite so dramatic, but that's probably for the better. But the back of the car is now the right temperature and not dangerously hot all the time. But other than that, I'm leaving it well alone. Cold start noise the car makes is one level, but as it gets hot, at about 4,000 RPM, the sound changes quite a lot, and that's it's just quite a nice noise. But when you're out on the road and you open it up, the noise from it is it's sensational, loud, but it's really good, really good. On cold start particularly, like say if I reverse the car out of the driveway in the morning, drive down to the bottom of the road, which isn't very far, so I'm in first gear, I might get up to like 3,000 RPM, that's it. You let off the throttle and it pops, cracks and bangs really loudly. Now it'll do it more when it's cold than it will when it's hot. In fact, it does it particularly when it's cold. It's hilarious, it's entertaining, it's head turning, all that sort of stuff. I was going down the A46, and I let off the throttle, went over the hill, and it just shut this great big flame out the back of the car, you know, and you just think, oh, that's brilliant. It's so good. I'd love to say that I'll keep it forever, but the problem with the car is that it's a selfish thing to have, in as much as wife, 2 children and all the rest of it. So all of a sudden you start looking at, because life's all about memories, isn't it? Creating good memories and what have you. But it's something that you want to do with everyone else. But I'm punching above my weight with it. It's going to get to the point whereby the car's worth an amount of money that, wow, I mean, what can I possibly do with that, maybe? I'd love to say that I'm going to keep it forever, but I don't know. I don't know. You don't know what's around the corner, do you? But it'll be a sad day when it goes. If it goes. Don't know. We'll see.